Well, hello, hello. We are live. This stream, we're just going to be doing some PC part picker stuff. I'm going to be updating my lists, making sure they're actually good, because I haven't touched them in at least a month. So they're probably all out of date, and there's parts that just aren't in stock anymore, which just sucks, but it is how it is. Alright, I'm going to switch scenes. There we go. So, I don't know what we're going to do first, but I was thinking we just go right into the builder and just create some cheap parts lists, because most people are probably going to be watching this after the fact, so we might as well just get right into it. This is really going to be for the US only. I mean, if this applies to your country, that's great, but I'm not going to go through every country and find the best deals for each country. That's just going to take way too much time. That isn't realistic. But hopefully this maybe helps you. If you're in the US, this should be helpful to you. Alright, we're going to go to the builder. We're going to start new. That was probably a pretty solid build, but we're going to go for... How about we start at, like, $500 and then work our way up? Well, $500 isn't a whole lot of money, and we would have to start using used parts, which I don't really want to do this stream. Maybe another stream, we'll look at some used parts. Maybe not. I don't know. But let's start with something. Let's do a build that's around $550. We're gonna start off with the Ryzen 5 5500. This is a pretty good part. It performs around the same speed as the Ryzen 5 3600, but it's a little bit cheaper. You could go with either one. The 3600 would probably work with more boards without having to do any BIOS update, which would suck, because that means you need BIOS flashback. However, we're going to choose a board that's cheap and has BIOS flashback, so it shouldn't be a huge deal. And for the board we're going to choose for $500 board, for $550 build, we're going to choose this Gigabyte A520 MS2H, and the reason we're going to choose that is because it has BIOS flashback. Q Flash Plus, you can see right there. That'll also tell you this board has BIOS flashback. It's a pretty solid board, just because it has BIOS flashback. That's really the only thing that makes it good. That, and it's cheap, and it'll work with some of the cheaper Ryzen 5000 series CPUs. The 5600 would be fine with it. I wouldn't pair the 5700X with it. That's probably a poor choice. But for the 5500, it should be perfect. And I somehow managed to lose it. It's right there. It's only $74 on Amazon. For the memory, we're going to go for a 16 gig kit of RAM. The Silicon Power kit here is pretty cheap. It usually is pretty cheap. There might be something for a little bit less than $30, but this is already really cheap for $30. It's 3200 CL16. Good enough for the CPU. And for the storage, I usually save a lot of the Silicon Power stuff because it's just cheap and good. There's a lot of options for cheap 1TB SSDs and NVMe SSDs, so don't feel like you're limited to these options here for cheap drives. I'm going to go for the A60. There's plenty of other great drives, like, oh, that one's not. The MP34 whatever from the Team Group. MP34 from Team Group or whatever, it's only $40. 1TB. That's not a bad option. I'm sure there's plenty of others. I could probably go at this all day. You can get the SN770. In fact, I should probably replace the UD90 with that, because why would you buy the UD90 when you can get the SN770? Although, isn't the SN770... The SN770 might be DRAM-less. I'll have to check. And the UD90 isn't. The A60 is, though. It's not a huge deal in this case. For the GPU, we're going to go for... You can either go for the Intel Arc A750, which is currently going for 220, so that's not really an option. Or more realistically, you're probably going to want to go for the 6600, and that goes for $200. He used to be a little bit cheaper at 180, but it's still pretty cheap at 200. You could also look at, usually I think the 6600 XT is basically out of stock. You could look at the 6650, that goes for $235. That's not a bad deal either. But we're going to opt for the 6600 to try to save money. For the case, I don't know. A lot of people, I like these 3 cases just because of how simple they are. But I'm not going to choose any of these 3. I like a lot of cases. We're going to look through. Oh, and cool. 216. This isn't a bad case, but it's $100. We're going to want to stick to around $50 or $60. We might even have to go cheaper. We'll see. Thermal take for, say, H18. That might be one of our options there. This is a really cheap case. There's the S-Hinge. And this is our $60 case, the CH370 from Keep Cool. We're just going to opt for this. We'll see where we're at. But we need a power supply. Now, for this build, I normally don't always love going for the Thermal Take Power GX2, but it's not a bad PSU. It's just, there's a reason it's this cheap. It's not a bad unit, though. And it'll work fine for this build. It's a little bit overkill. So we're at around $562. You do not need a CPU cooler, as this comes with a stock cooler or whatever, and it'll be good enough for this CPU. Alright. So this is our $560 build. I know I said we were going to stick around $550, but this is pretty close, and I don't feel like changing any of this. This is all really solid. So we're going to save this as the private comments. 560. PC build. And then we'll go back. Alright. Now, we can either go to 700 or we can go to 800. It's pretty hard to cover all the price ranges. You could go up to 600, which would only be like $40 more, maybe 650. Basically, the only change you're going to want to make to this build is maybe going to 5600. 5600 has gotten a little bit more expensive. It went from like 130 something to 140. Not a huge price difference, but still, there's a pretty big price gap between the CPU and the 5600 in these kinds of builds. So we're not even gonna use any of these parts. Well, we might use that board again. We're gonna do an $800 build, and we're gonna opt for the 5600. 5600 is a really solid 6-core CPU still. It's still good with GPUs like the 6700 XT. You could even pair it with the 6800 XT, but you probably want to be playing at 1440p at least. Maybe consider 1440p ultra wide. It's pretty good. Ultra wide monitors are great. You could do 4K. I mean, it would work fine at 4K. There'd be no bottlenecking. You could even do it with the 7900 XT. You could pair this CPU with that, as long as you're playing at like 4K. It's not going to be a huge deal. It probably wouldn't be a huge deal even at 1440p or 1440p ultra wide. You might run into some bottlenecking then. The 7900 XT is a really weirdly named card considering it's $800 and performs how a 7800 XT should perform. It's 30% faster than the 6800 XT, so just keep that in mind. And the CPU's already seeing some bottlenecks or whatever with the... You're already bottlenecking the GPU. Be hard with the CPU. The CPU is good though. This is an actually solid CPU. We're gonna opt for the same board I think as before. We could go for a B550 board, but unless you plan on upgrading to like the 5800 X3D, well, the board I would choose, you probably shouldn't throw a 5800 X3D on, so I'm just gonna opt for the A520 board. It'll work. We're gonna opt for this 2H. because it has BIOS flashback, so the 5600 non-X could work with it, just in case it isn't supported in the BIOS comes out of the box with, which would suck, but this has BIOS flashback, so you don't have to worry about that. We could go for a 32 gig kit, or we can maximize our budget for a GPU by going for a 16 gig kit, which I think we're going to do. However, the 32 gig kit, which I don't know if I have it saved, I wouldn't be surprised if I didn't, it's right here, goes for around $50. So, if you want 32 gigabytes of RAM, which is a nice amount to have in 2023, it's only $20 more, roughly. For storage, we're going to throw in, I don't know if the SN770 here. Why don't I do some research on the site here? SN770. Right. I don't know if it does. No. So we don't want the SN770. Got it. The SN850X is a solid drive. If you're looking for a drive. That's the one that... Actually, I think Sony recommends these drives for the PS5. That's the P3 Plus from Crucial. We're going to opt for the UD90. This is the PCIe 4.0 SSD that has a DRAM cache. It's not the fastest PCIe 4.0 SSD, but it's pretty fast. The 2TB one's a lot slower. It seems to have more problems than the 1TB one. Although they don't really have problems. It's just slower. So keep that in mind. It's still a good option, but that's why it's cheap. For the GPU, for an $800 build, you should really be opting for a 6700 XT. If you're really into aesthetics, maybe go for like a 6650 XT, but I would avoid it. If you're into aesthetics, get a bigger budget. Or don't get a build for gaming. I mean, all those are valid. Or buy a used GPU. You could do that. For $320, the 64 XT is the cheapest one. It's fine. They'll all work. For the case, we're probably just going to opt for... I didn't even see this case. It's only like... I don't know. Like how I opted for this case instead. Why did I do that? This is a micro ATX tower, though. It'll look better with that board. So we're going to opt for this case, but I would recommend this case. For kind of obvious reasons. It's going to be a lot more... It's going to be nicer if you want to get a bigger GPU. This one should be okay. And the power supply. Now, there's a few options you could go with here. ARM750E. There's several good 750 watt PSUs, actually, I believe, for $100. The ARM750X. That's a great PSU. For $115, although I would just pay the extra and get the ARM850X. This will handle pretty much every GPU, CPU combo out there. Besides maybe like the 1300K or an overclock in 1300K and a 4090. You might struggle there. Or heavily overclocked 7900 XTX. Or just a normal 7900 XTX. I'm pretty sure that consumes... I don't know if it's the same amount of power, but it's getting close. I could also opt for the CX650M. Really, if you want to look for a PSU, go to the PSU tier list. And just look for every PSU that's rated C tier and above. Preferably at $800, you probably should get a unit that's B tier. But C tier is fine, too. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Just anything C tier and above. That's what I'm going to recommend. For this kind of build. But I have plenty of budget to work with, so I could probably get something here. We're gonna get... We'll just throw in the R... I don't know. I mean, it's $20 more. We'll just throw in the CX650M. I'm sure there's ways I could cut costs. So we're at $750. You could do a few things here. You could throw a 32 gig kit. You could do a lot of things here. What we're gonna do is we're gonna throw in a 32 gig kit. And... oh, that should be fine. We're at $770. Uh, hmm. I don't know. Water. Okay. How much is the Peerless Assassin going for? That would be totally overkill for the CPU. I mean, you don't have to do this. I would say don't do this. Do we have anything smaller that's, like, cheaper? The problem is the Peerless Assassin's just so cheap. Like, it's hard to not recommend it. Like, K400? Oh, but that's, like, a huge downgrade. I can't remember. We're gonna want to look at thermalite coolers. That's not, it's not. Is it actually spelled right? Why am I spelling it wrong? Thinking it's spelled wrong intentionally. What? Okay, well, you get the point. We're gonna go from cheapest to most expensive. The Assassin Axe, that'd probably be fine. Literally any of these tower coolers would be fine, besides this cooler here. Avoid this. This Assassin X Refined SE Plus. Wow. What's the difference between the Frost Tower 120 or... Isn't there the Frost or the Phantom Spirit or whatever? That was the updated. This one costs a little bit more. This one performs better. Well, so I'll keep that in mind. I'm really thinking on this one. It's kind of tough. Could do RGB. So we're probably just going to want to opt for one of these Assassin X coolers. We could get the one with RGB or the one without. The RGB even be able to work. I have no clue. We're going to throw it on there anyways. It won't matter. We'll just call this the $800 build. I didn't hit $800, but pretty close. I could have got a better PSU too. Probably should have done that. The RM750E would probably be nice choice. Gaming build, we're gonna name it that because there's several $800 gaming PC parts lists I have saved. I'll figure out what to name it later, and we're gonna move on. Start new. We're just gonna go straight to 1,000. That makes the most sense. So, we really have to think about this. I see a lot of YouTubers who go 7,600, 6,700 XT to 1,000. That's not a good choice. We're gonna opt for the 5,600. That's gonna be the first part I choose. I'm making a statement right now. I am not gonna go 7,600, 6,700 XT because that's just not worth it. At least in a gaming build. If you're not doing gaming, none of these parts lists apply to you. Well, they might kind of apply to you, but if it's like a CPU-intensive workload, opt for a better CPU, obviously. If it's a workload that needs CUDA, opt for an NVIDIA GPU, at least for now. So AMD can get their solution going. Don't assume AMD will save you. We're gonna opt for the Dash. It's a little bit expensive. The B550 board, it actually comes with a little bit of DRM cooling. It's pretty solid. We're gonna opt for a 32 gig kit as well. We'll see. If it's worth going down to like the lower end board or the 16 gig kit to get a 6800 XT, which is what we're gonna try and do. We're gonna do that because that makes the most sense. And we're gonna go for UD90, 1 terabyte. You could go for 2 terabytes, we'll see. See where we're at. And we're gonna opt for a 6800 XT. Because at $1,000, you should at least get a 6800, if not a 6800 XT. We have a few options. Either ASRock or Power Color here. They're all good options. I have no clue how good this card is. This XFX one would probably also be pretty solid. I have no clue how these two compare. We should also look at the 7800 XT, but I'm pretty sure we're going to be looking at limited stock there, unfortunately. If I have an extra $50 to spend, maybe it's worth the extra $50, but probably not. So let's go for the 6800 XT. We're not for this Power Color one. For the case, I'm pretty sure it would fit in that other one, but we're just going to throw in the bigger case. And for the power supply, we're already a little bit over budget. I can already see that. We at least want a 750 watt power supply, if not an 850 watt one. So this isn't amazing, but a 750 watt one will work. So we're only $17 over. That's not a massive amount over. There's ways I could save money, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to leave that at with the extra $17. Just because I think this is worth paying $17 more for. And having the 750 watt PSU. You could probably look on the PSU tier list, see if you can find a cheaper 750 watt PSU, but this is pretty good for $100. This build will be really solid for $100, for $1,000, not $100. You can maybe save some money with used GPU. Like, you could maybe see if you can use 3080 for like $400. Used RX 6000 series cards they exist, but they're not as common, I would say, as used 30 series cards. So usually the used market's better there. The only unfortunate part is they usually come with a lack of VRAM. The 3060 is fine, but I don't generally find deals good enough on the 3060 to consider it over something like the RX 5700 XT, which is like, that card can get really cheap sometimes and performs basically the same as the 3060, if not a little bit better. So, usually that's going for around maybe 180, usually like 150 on eBay. Maybe it's even cheaper, we'll look at that, maybe next week sometime, maybe later this week, whenever I decide to stream again. That's when we'll look at it. Now, for thing. What was I gonna do? I'm deciding what to do for the next budget. I think I'm gonna bump it up by $200. But I'm not sure what I'm gonna change. For $200 extra, here's the real question. Can I get a 7600? Because I think, well, that isn't gonna work. Obviously. We're gonna want to get rid of this, this, and this. And we're gonna want to see if we can get a 7600. We'll see if we can do that. We're not going to get a CPU cooler because this comes with a CPU cooler, so we don't need one. And for boards, we're going to avoid these boards, even though they're actually really solid. The Tomahawk and the RS Elite IX. I would rather have this board, but I could see if you didn't want to buy this board. I actually don't recommend this board anymore because of that Gigabyte, because of the controversy with the Gigabyte motherboards, where they basically had a backdoor in them. I don't think I'd recommend this board for that reason, but I'm not 100% sure. If this board's affected or not, I don't know. I'd rather be safe than sorry at this point, but this is a really good board. So I would hate to see them not at least try to fix this in some way, if they can. That being said, we're not even going to look at these two boards. These two boards don't matter. So I like to try to go for the MSI boards over the Gigabyte boards until I should probably do some more research on that. So we're going to do... This isn't a bad board. Fortunately, I'm saying I'm going to kind of avoid the Gigabyte boards until I understand a little bit more. This board would probably be okay for 160. Just to save some money. And for memory, I have this memory kit starred. Okay. I have this kit starred. The G-Skill Orthros S5 32 gig kit. It's an SK Hynix kit. It's DDR5 6000 series. CL30. It's an SK Hynix kit. So it's going to be good for OC. Overclocking. If you're into memory overclocking. This is also really good for Ryzen, so... Or really good for any CPU that supports DDR5, really. It's not RGB, but... That's fine. Alright. I think we're gonna stop. I think that's probably pretty good right there. We can maybe spend a little bit extra, get a tower cooler for the 7600, but it doesn't need it, technically. It's gonna run a bit. It's gonna run a little hot. So if you have the extra money to spare, I'd get like the... It's probably gonna run... Will it run hotter than the... It'll probably run hotter than the 5600. I would get the Peerless Assassin here. This is a really, really good CPU cooler. If you have extra money to spend, you can go to the Spirit. What's that one called? I didn't even know that existed until just recently. I don't even know when they released that. We're gonna go up the... We'll do this. Is it just right here? Surely. The Phantom Spirit. I think that's the one. This one's a bit better than the Peerless Assassin. So if you're interested in the better cooler. At least I think it is. Maybe you should look that one. Maybe I'm gonna look that one up. Is... Oh. Placed. Phantom Spirit. Phantom Spirit's an updated version of the Peerless Assassin. So I would recommend that one if you have the extra money to spend. But the Peerless Assassin's a really good deal for $35. It makes Noctua's offering seem kind of like... It's not a scam, but Noctua needs to lower their prices. Because this cooler's not that far off the Noctua coolers. The NHD15 in particular. I actually wonder how the Phantom Spirit would compare. Maybe the Phantom Spirit would actually be better. I wouldn't be surprised. Anyways, for $1,200, you could spend that extra money in the GPU. You could get a 6950 XT. Or you could spend it here. You could also go 12600K and then use the cheaper DDR4 kit. That's not an... Actually, we're going to try that. We already kind of have our hard selected. The 7600, the AMP5 platform is going to be better for upgrading later on when you can pay $150 and get some CPU that's like twice as fast as the one you have now. Twice as fast as 7600. Really, K-SKU? Why? Oh, is there... Well, there's no non-K-SKU. What am I thinking? Oh, because I put in K. Actually, I think I need to get a K-SKU anyways. We're looking at around 200 bucks. So that's fine. Actually, I think it was going for a little less before, which is unfortunate. The beauty of this is that we can go for the cheapest Z690 port. Literally. There's no repercussions to doing this. And it will work. That's the beauty of the CPU. We're gonna probably opt, I guess, for an ATX board. I have no clue how good the PG Riptide is, but it can't be that bad. I probably should have honestly saved that other build. So we're looking at that. The problem is, we could go for the 6950 XT, but we're not going to have a good enough power supply. Also, we need a CPU cooler. I didn't even think about that. So, Just keep that in mind. I think we're going to want to go for Ryzen. We could go for the 4070. But, I don't know. That doesn't seem like that's worth doing. That doesn't seem like it's worth doing. But I guess if you want a 4070, you could go the Intel option instead. We're going to do... How are we going to maximize this budget? Is the 6950 XT really... Is it sub 600 right now? Probably not. Find that probably pretty... We're looking at 1250. Oof. That's rough. Considering we need to also upgrade the PSU. This could be a good $1,300 build. This board's already pretty cheap, so it's not like I'm going to find too many ways to improve it. This combo here might be a little bit problematic. Probably not. I think it'll be okay. And considering I'm running a 7900 XT with an i9 10850K, I don't think this is going to be too problematic. I believe the 10850K is worse than the 12600KF in performance, in gaming performance. But not by that much, though. At least I don't think it's by that much. It's water. So what we're gonna do is we're probably just gonna go for the Ryzen option. The Ryzen option makes more sense, at least in this context. Because we're not gonna be able to upgrade the GPU. We're not gonna be able to do anything with that extra money, basically. So why not spend it on a CPU that's gonna be faster? Get on the AM5 platform and get DDR5. That just makes more sense to me. I don't... Is the 7500F out? I don't believe that's going to come out in North America. I could be wrong. This might also not be the best board to choose. But it fit within the budget. Supposedly there's some buffering issues. Oh, what the... I'm just checking quickly. We'll see. I might... We're gonna set this down to 144p. Oh wait, it's not like... There. There shouldn't be any buffering. And, okay. We should be good. It doesn't claim I'm dropping any... Oh, I've dropped 1,000 frames. Okay, yeah, that's enough. It's not too many frames, but it's enough. That's what happens when you're not using Ethernet. I should have recorded this, so then I could post it to YouTube at a higher quality, but that's fine. It's not the end of the world. Anyways, I noticed the webcam thing just popped up again. Siren. Okay, we're actually at 1,300. How did we get to 1,300? Oh, because we had the 6950X. Wait, this is 1,300? I'm gonna save this. Wait, no, because this is this doesn't have an 850 watt PSU. That would have been problematic. Hello? Let's drop more frames. We're gonna go back down the 6800 XT. 6800 XT. There's the 6800, there's the 7700 XT. I have no clue what they're doing. We're actually gonna... Can I view other video clips? Yes, okay. We're gonna view those cards, okay. I'm wondering when AIBs are gonna drop the price, because those are not gonna sell. Or if they're really waiting for 6800 to sell out. Most people would just rather pay the extra to get 6800 XT or 7800 XT. 7800 XT is slightly more viable or whatever. I think people would rather have that, but... Anyways. This is going to be our $1,200 build. Gaming build. These are all for gaming. Maybe I'll do one productivity one at the end. We'll see. That's not actually the current time. This is off. So you can't really figure out my time zone. Because you actually could. I'm thinking about the next part right to 1500. I think that makes the... Does that make sense? We've been... A problem is 1500 is actually such a... I feel like that's a pretty big price point. Obviously, this isn't. Well, YouTube is not experiencing buffering. Oh, yes, it is. Jeez. Okay, we're dropping a lot of frames. Please stop dropping frames. I'm gonna close some things. Okay, well, YouTube's... No, just... It's gonna be a few frames. So we dropped a lot of frames at once, though, so hopefully that's not a huge deal. I'm gonna go for a $1,500 build. And we're gonna go for... Probably 7600 again. You can go Intel, too. Just like AM5 for its upgradability. And these CPUs are pretty affordable. We're gonna actually add the... Wait, what? The Peerless Assassin just went out of stock. How did that happen? Why did that just happen? Okay, well, we're gonna actually add the Phantom... We're gonna add the Phantom Spirit. Save to favorites. That way I have that CPU cooler, because it's just an updated Peerless Assassin. And I like the Peerless Assassin. For the board, for a $1,500 build, we're gonna go for this Tomahawk board. Same kit or memory. We're gonna go for the 2TB one. This one's gonna be slower, but it won't be a huge deal for gaming. For 1500, we're gonna try to fit a 7900 XT in. That makes the most sense to me, at least. We're looking at 780. Like, really? What? Are they giving up on the 7900 XT? Do you see this? Why are there so few options? Feels like there's more XTX options. Well, I guess not really. I kind of just kept scrolling and wasn't paying attention. Giving up on the 7900 XT already? No. Ooh. That's rough. I'm gonna have to think about this one. We might want to sacrifice that board again to get this card. Because that's worth doing. Really? Let's go to Micro Center. If you have a Micro Center nearby, check to see if they have any open box 700 XTs. Or check to see if there's any... I think their new price is probably lower. Actually, I'm going to go look at AMD.com. I'm going to look there. I want to see what their price for their Founders card is. It's probably 150 or 800. But maybe it's cheaper for some apparent reason. Usually that's not the case. Yeah, it's 850. The 7800 XT is instantly out of stock. I don't understand how the 7800 XT went out of stock. It's like people just forgot about the 6800 XT. Like, seems like they shipped enough units. Like, it was in stock for a good while. People just really wanted it, apparently. I think retailers haven't even shipped them out yet. Considering there's no reviews and they're all sold out, I would have to assume. And I looked for scalpers, but I didn't find any evidence of scalpers. Buying them up. Maybe on eBay. I only looked on StockX. That's like the scalper hangout zone. For the case, we're going to go for the Deep Cool case again. Should be a huge deal. Imagine that. Some apparent reason the view couldn't fit. I didn't think about that. We're $100 over. If you have a $1,500 budget, I'm gonna make the recommendation that you spend the extra 100. Because this is actually just worth it. Oh, I also just chose the ARMS 850. Do I have the ARM 850X? Yes. That one's like one of the best rated PSUs on not only the tier list, but just one of the best PSUs in general. The problem is the 1700 XT is so expensive. Should be $80 cheaper. I have seen it for $80 cheaper where it should be. But it doesn't want to consistently be at $700. We're gonna opt for this board again to keep... Oh, we're so close. We're gonna go down... Oh, I feel like for 1800 or for 1500. We're gonna go down to the UD90 1TB. Even though it would really be nice to have the two. Looking at around 1550, I'm actually pretty satisfied with that. We're gonna stop there. Build. We're gonna name it build. Save. Perfect. 1547. I actually don't know. Now I'm thinking about the next build. I think we should cover one for 1800. I've seen some people in like other YouTubers' comment sections asking for like $1,700 or $1,800 builds. We're gonna go one for. I'm gonna do a $1,700. Why did I look up 1,200K? Lose something for 1,750. We're actually just gonna opt for 7,700. I was thinking about... Wow, okay. That's not attractive when it comes to pricing. Really? Come on, AMD. Well, I guess we're going 12,700 KF. I mean, I could still see why you'd want the AMD option, but this is a lot cheaper. This CPU is actually pretty solid for $260. Oh, it's on B&H. I'm gonna go check to make sure this is in stock. This is in fact in stock. Like, I can add it to cart and actually get it. For the CPU cooler, because the Peerless Assassin just went out of stock. Fantastic. Actually, I don't think they use the Peerless Assassin build, so... When it comes to boards, I can do that same thing. Where I just look up Z690 and choose the cheapest board. Which just so happens to be this amazing ASRock Z690 PT Riptide. Wow, this is just an amazing board. Greatest board. I don't know anything about it. What makes this board tick? Actually, this is a really solid board for $120. Just looking at it on my second monitor. This is a really solid build. Board. I mean, this isn't going to be a solid build, but... we're gonna go for that same 32 gig kit. You may want to go for 3600 CL16, but I'm not convinced it's gonna make enough of a difference to be worth spending like $60, $70, $80. I have no clue how much it costs. I'd rather spend the money on the GPU, especially in a gaming build. We are going to go for a 7900 XTX. Because in a $2,000 build, that's traditionally what you would go for. So, yeah. Currently, the Sapphire Pulse is going for $940. Well, that just sucks, I guess. Because there was one going for, I think it was $920. And for the case, for $1,750, I don't know. You can go for the CC 560 again. I'm just gonna go for it again. You can choose really whatever case you want. Just keep in mind that they're gonna be more expensive or they're gonna be cheaper. Also keep in mind, make sure that your parts are gonna actually fit. If you're gonna buy an AIO, just keep stuff like that in mind. I've just been going for this case for like every PC build. I think I went for just the smaller. I think I went for the MATX case for the. What would you call that? I don't know. I'm not thinking straight. We're going for RMA50X. Wow, that worked out a lot better than I thought it would. Why did that? Oh, because I want 12700K. I don't know why I thought it was going for like some stupid, really expensive CPU. The fine CPU. We're gonna look at 12900K. No, we are not going to look at 100K. We're gonna look at. We could look at the 13600K. This is also actually kind of affordable. I'm gonna throw this one in here. You could go 12700KF. You can go 13600KF. They're probably not going to be too different when it comes to overall gaming performance. They have. I think the 12700KF actually has more E-cores, but they probably have the same amount. This has less P-cores though. It only has 6 P-cores, which is basically like 6 normal cores. And the 12700KF has 8, so keep that in mind. This should be faster in gaming. I believe it is faster, so we're gonna opt for it. They're either really similar or this is faster. This is going to be just the $1,700 build. Build. And then we're going to end it off with the $2,000 build. I could go to 2,500 or 2,600 and cover the 4090, but I don't care to do that. We're going to see if we can fit 7800X3D. That probably makes the most sense. And I guess we're just going to remove all that. I don't know if we're going to be able to do this for... I think it's going to be more expensive. The 100X3D. We're going to go for the B650 Tomahawk Wi-Fi. This is not going to work. I can immediately tell you this isn't going to work, considering how much money I saved going for that Intel route. The Intel build. Wait, what? This actually works. This is what I would consider to be the world's fastest gaming CPU. This board is a solid board. This is a really good kit of RAM. And this is a really good CPU air cooler. And all this apparently works for a little under $2,000. I thought it would be a little bit over, but I guess that works. $2,000 gaming build. We're gonna go for... Let's just ignore all these. Just to do a quick recap. Actually, wait. Why don't I just... All the parts list we created. This is the $560 one. D500, 6600, 16 gig kit of RAM, A60, and RDX2. Solid build for $560. Super affordable. Pretty performant. The $800 build, maybe I should have done a $700 build. Anyways. It wouldn't be too hard to do, considering I literally added an air cooler to this when I didn't need to, because the 5600 comes with the stock cooler. That would be good enough. And I upped this to a 32 gig kit of RAM. It's 5600, 6700 XT for $800. Makes sense. And let's go on to the next one. The $1,000 build, we're still using the 5600, but we're replacing that 6700 XT with the 6800 XT, and we increase the power supply. We improve the power supply from improve. We got a better power supply. We went from the CX650M the RM750E, so you get 750 watts of power there. And what else did we do to this? We also improved the motherboard. Both of these boards support BIOS flashback. For the $1,200 build, we're using the 7600. We're using this B650M, a Wi-Fi board, MSI board, solid board for $160. We're using this super fast DDR5 kit of RAM, UD90, the same GPU. Is this the same case? Same CC 560, because I wasn't using anything past an air cooler. And we're using the RM750E for 1200. This is gonna be a pretty big CPU boost. Okay, well, whatever. $1,550 build, $1,500 build. What I initially tried to get it to be. We're using the 7600. We're basically using the same CPU cooler, motherboard, memory as the cheaper build. Same storage. We're gonna be upgrading the video card to the 7900 XT, and we're getting an RM850X. For the $1,700 build, we're using the 13600 KF. You can also use the 12700 KF, but both would work. Oh, I just realized something. I'm gonna edit this parts list. This board probably doesn't support BIOS flashback, and I'm not gonna just risk the fact that it might not support the 13600 KF. We're gonna use the 12700 KF. For the $1,700 build, we have the 12700 KF. We have the Phantom Spirit, which is a better version of the Peerless Assassin. It's a really good CPU cooler. That C690 board that's like weirdly cheap, but it's in stock, so why not? And we're using this 32 gig kit, 3200 CL16 DDR4 memory. It's not going to give the performance boost that DDR5 would give, but it's still 12700K on DDR4. It's going to be pretty fast. We have the UD90 2TB. It's a solid PCIe 4.0 drive. There's plenty of great options out there for $80. Just look around. RX 7900 XTX. That makes sense for a $1,700 build. It's going to provide plenty of performance at both 1440p ultra-wide and 4K. So if you want to do some 4K gaming, you absolutely can. You can do it with the 7900 XT as well, but this is going to be great. The only thing that'd be better is obviously the 4090. And the CC560, same case, same RM850X, because that's good enough. Maybe you might want the RM1000X, but I don't think you're going to run into too many problems. And then there's the $2,000 build, the 7800X3D. Maybe this would be a good candidate for the RM1000X. Have a 1000 watt PSU. I guess you could make that decision and check out, but I believe this should still all work. 7800X3D. That improved Phantom Spirit cooler. B650 Tomahawk. Ripjaw's S5. That 32 king kit of DDR5 6000 CL30. The 2TB UD90. 50. That's basically the amount of builds I did for this stream. Everything is on my PC part picker file. It's Jeffertz. So if you're interested, I might update some of these lists. Maybe I should delete some of these. Maybe. I like to save some of them just to kind of as a nostalgia thing. I still have a build from, I still have a parts list from like, I don't know, I think 16 series that I didn't delete. It's somewhere. Somewhere in that mess of parts list. But I think that's going to be it for tonight. It is currently pretty late. This timer isn't right. It is at 10. It's later. And I think I did a pretty good job. If you're interested in what I do, I might be streaming maybe later this week, sometime next week. I don't know. Whenever I feel like it, I'll go into some of the used PC parts. We'll look at the used market. Because the new market is pretty, I would say, decent right now. A lot of YouTubers wouldn't agree, but I don't think this is too bad for 500. So I guess this is going to be it. Just gonna end stream. The stream quality probably isn't too great, which is unfortunate. But, I don't know, maybe I'll try to get that fixed for next time. Maybe I'll record it as well, so I can post it on my YouTube channel, just as a video. That's probably a better idea. Also, I also want to do a setup tour, which I haven't done one yet. Because I have kind of an interesting setup, but it's kind of a mess right now. I have to figure out what to do. I have all my college books. And, yeah, I probably should figure that stuff out first. And then I'll do a setup tour, where you can look at both my TV setup and my main battle station. Anyways, this is going to be the end of the stream. Make sure to subscribe if you're interested. Or don't, if you're not. And